Picture this. A billionaire and his Instagram influencer girlfriend are playing a cruel game at a charity gala. They're mocking his wife in front of 400 people, cameras rolling, everyone laughing. The wife stands there in a frumpy beige dress, silent, taking every insult. Then she places one hand on her stomach, and the entire room goes dead silent. What they didn't know, she'd been pregnant for 7 months. What else they didn't know? She'd been gathering evidence the entire time. While they turned her humiliation into viral content, she was building a federal case. While they laughed, she was planning the perfect revenge. Tonight, you're about to hear the story of Charlotte Morrison Thorne, the invisible wife who became unstoppable, the silent woman who said one sentence and destroyed a $14 billion empire. This isn't just about revenge. It's about a pregnant woman who turned 18 months of public torture into the most epic takedown in New York society history. FBI agents, handcuffs, arrests at a black tie gala, and a baby who kicked for the first time during a board meeting while her father stole the credit for her mother's work. Stick with me for the next 90 minutes, because this story has everything. And I promise you, the moment that room goes silent, you'll get chills. Let's begin. This is the story of how an invisible wife executed the perfect takedown of a billionaire and his mistress. Before we dive into the details, let me tell you, being underestimated is the ultimate superpower. And once this story is done, you'll understand why silence can be the most dangerous weapon of all. The morning of April 10th began like any other morning in the Morrison Thorne penthouse. Charlotte Catherine Morrison Thorne stood in her kitchen at 6 in the morning, making breakfast her husband wouldn't eat. The floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Central Park, 40 stories below. The apartment was worth $30 million, filled with antique furniture and family portraits going back 5 generations. Old money whispered from every corner. Charlotte had grown up with this kind of wealth. Her husband had married into it. She wore a beige cashmere cardigan over a simple white blouse, pearl studs in her ears, hair pulled back in a low ponytail. At 38, she was naturally beautiful, but she'd stopped trying to emphasize it years ago. Why bother? Vincent never looked at her anymore. Speaking of Vincent, her husband's laptop sat open on the kitchen counter. Charlotte had been reading his emails while the eggs cooked. She'd been doing this for 6 months now, ever since she found the first text message from an unknown number. Last night was amazing, baby, with a fire emoji. She'd known what was coming. She just hadn't known how cruel it would get. Charlotte's phone buzzed on the counter. Another text to Vincent's number. The preview showed on the laptop screen since his devices were synced. Can't wait to see you today. That meeting is going to be so boring without you to entertain me. Charlotte's hand paused on the spatula. Then she closed the laptop. Continued cooking. Her face remained perfectly neutral. She'd practiced this expression for months. Vincent Alexander Thorne entered the kitchen on his phone, not acknowledging his wife. "Babe, I'll call you back," he said into the device. His voice was warm, affectionate. He'd never used that tone with Charlotte. "No, she doesn't know. I said I'll call you back." He hung up, grabbed the coffee Charlotte had poured, scrolled through his phone without looking up. Vincent was 45, handsome in that polished billionaire way. Expensive suits, perfect haircut. He graced magazine covers, gave TED Talks. Everyone in Manhattan wanted to be Vincent Thorne or be seen with him. Charlotte placed eggs in front of him. He didn't acknowledge the gesture. "The Morrison Foundation board meeting is at 2 this afternoon," Charlotte said quietly. "Don't forget." Vincent glanced up briefly, dismissive. Yeah. Try to wear something professional, Charlie. Not that beige thing you always wear." Charlotte looked down at her beige cardigan. "I'll do my best." Vincent finally looked at her properly, or rather, through her. "Actually, I'm bringing someone. Potential brand partnership. Sienna Blake. She's an influencer." Charlotte's fingers tightened on her coffee mug. Carefully, controlled. "To a board meeting?" "Yeah, she's got 40 million followers. Could be good for the foundation's image." Vincent returned to his phone. You could learn something from her about presentation. He left his plate half full, walked out without another word. Charlotte stood alone in the kitchen. She cleared his plate, opened the laptop again. Searched, Sienna Blake influencer. The results showed a gorgeous 29-year-old woman, skin-tight designer dresses, sponsored posts, luxury lifestyle, 40 million Instagram followers. Every photo was an advertisement for excess. Charlotte caught her reflection in the microwave. Beige cardigan, no makeup, invisible. Her hand moved to her stomach. Still flat, only 8 weeks along. Nobody knew yet, not even the father. I found the first text 6 months ago, Charlotte would later tell investigators. I knew what was coming. I just didn't know how cruel it would get. The Morrison Foundation occupied the 10th floor of a building in Midtown. The conference room had mahogany everything. Mahogany table, mahogany chairs, mahogany paneling on the walls. 12 board members sat around the table. Half were old guard society. The other half were new money tech donors. Charlotte had assembled this board herself over 5 years. At 2 o'clock exactly, Charlotte stood at the head of the table. She wore a gray theory suit, minimal jewelry, professional but understated. Her presentation was already loaded on the screen. The pediatric oncology wing at Morrison Children's Hospital treated 847 patients last quarter. Charlotte began. Her voice was clear, confident. This was her element. We achieved a 94% satisfaction rate, which represents. The door burst open. Vincent entered with a woman who could only be Sienna Blake. Every board member turned, stared. Sienna wore a skin-tight red Balmain dress that belonged in a nightclub, not a boardroom. 6-inch heels, a designer bag that cost more than most people's cars. Her face was Instagram perfect, contoured, highlighted, camera ready. Sorry we're late, Vincent announced loudly. Not sorry at all. Traffic. Everyone, this is Sienna Blake. Sienna's voice was performative, loud. Oh my God, hi everyone. This is so exciting. I've never been to a real board meeting before. She pulled out her phone, started filming. Hey besties, I'm at this insane foundation meeting right now. Charlotte cleared her throat. Miss Blake, I'm sorry, we don't allow filming during. Vincent cut her off. Sienna's just documenting. It's fine. Continue, Charlie. Charlotte's jaw tightened, the only visible sign of her anger. She resumed her presentation. Tried to focus, but Sienna was whispering to Vincent, loudly, audibly. Who's that? Sienna stage whispered. That's my wife, Charlotte, Vincent replied. Not quietly enough. Sienna's voice rang out across the conference room. That's your wife? Oh, wow. I thought she was, like, the secretary or something. The board erupted in uncomfortable silence. Older board members looked horrified. Younger tech donors shifted in their seats, uncomfortable laughing. Charlotte stood frozen at the head of her own table. Sienna continued, oblivious or uncaring. I mean, no offense, girl, but maybe a little more effort? You're married to a billionaire. Vincent laughed, actually laughed. He didn't defend Charlotte, didn't tell Sienna to stop. He sided with the mistress, in front of 12 people who'd known Charlotte for years. Excuse me, Charlotte said quietly. I need some air. She left her own meeting, walked to the women's restroom on shaking legs, gripped the sink, stared at her reflection. Her mascara wasn't quite running, but her eyes were wet. Her hands shook. The door opened behind her. Margaret Morrison, Charlotte's grandmother, entered. 82 years old, elegant, in a Chanel suit. She'd been sitting in on the board meeting as an observer. The Morrison Foundation had been her project before it became Charlotte's. That woman is a walking felony, Maggie said. Charlotte composed herself quickly. She's just young. She's deliberate. And your husband allowed it in your foundation, at your table. I don't want to talk about it, Grandma. Maggie studied her granddaughter carefully. Her eyes were sharp, missing nothing. What aren't you telling me? Charlotte's hand moved unconsciously to her stomach. Still flat, only 8 weeks pregnant. She caught herself, stopped. Nothing, I'm fine. Maggie's expression said she didn't believe it for a second. Your great-grandmother said she was fine for 3 years while my grandfather embezzled from the company. You know what she did? Charlotte knew this story by heart. Had him arrested at their anniversary party. In front of 200 witnesses, wearing Chanel and sapphires, she didn't cry. She calculated. And when the moment was right, she destroyed him. Maggie handed Charlotte a handkerchief. Stop being fine. Start being strategic. The next day, Charlotte sat in Dr. Sarah Mitchell's office on the Upper East Side. The office was discreet, expensive art on the walls, privacy assured. These doctors didn't gossip. That's why wealthy women came here. Charlotte lay on the examination table in a paper gown. The ultrasound wand moved across her stomach. On the screen, a tiny bean-shaped form flickered. Charlotte stared at it. Her baby. Vincent's baby. A baby he didn't know existed. "Well, Mrs. Thorne," Dr. Mitchell said warmly, "congratulations. You're about 8 weeks along. Everything looks healthy." Charlotte couldn't look away from the screen. "You're sure?" "Very sure. Would you like me to call Mr. Thorne so you can tell him together?" The pause stretched too long. "No," Charlotte finally said, "not yet." Dr. Mitchell's professional smile faltered slightly. "Is everything all right at home?" "How long until it shows, the pregnancy?" "Most women start showing around 12 to 16 weeks for a first pregnancy. With strategic clothing, you could conceal it longer." "Why do you ask?" Charlotte met the doctor's eyes. "I need time." "Charlotte, is there something you need to tell me?" The words came out flat, factual. "My husband is having an affair. She was at my board meeting yesterday, insulting me in front of my colleagues." Dr. Mitchell's face softened with sympathy. "I'm so sorry." "Don't be." Charlotte's voice changed. Something cold entered it. "Because I just realized something. He wants me invisible? Fine. I'll be invisible, while I gather every piece of evidence I need to destroy him." She looked at the ultrasound screen, at the tiny flickering form. "And by the time he finds out about her," Charlotte gestured to the screen, "it'll be too late." That was the day Charlotte Catherine Morrison Thorne stopped being Vincent's wife and started being his reckoning. 3 weeks later, Charlotte stood in the Metropolitan Museum of Art wearing a classic navy Michael Kors dress, empire waist. It concealed the small bump that was just beginning to form. She was 11 weeks pregnant now. Still nobody noticed. Vincent certainly hadn't. The spring benefit was one of the biggest charity events of the season. 200 guests in black tie. Press photographers everywhere. Charlotte had co-hosted this event for 5 years. She knew everyone. Greeted donors, thanked supporters. She was gracious, natural, in her element. Then Vincent arrived, with Sienna. Sienna Blake wore a skin-tight red Versace gown with a slit to her hip, 20 carats of borrowed diamonds. Charlotte would later discover they were Morrison family pieces that Vincent had lent to his mistress. The press photographers went crazy, confused. Who was this woman with Vincent Thorne? Charlotte extended her hand professionally. "Welcome, Miss Blake." Sienna ignored the handshake. Instead, she circled Charlotte slowly, examining her, like Charlotte was an object, not a person. "Girl," Sienna said loudly, loud enough for nearby guests to hear. "Who dressed you?" Charlotte's smile froze on her face. Sienna turned to the press photographers. Her voice carried across the museum entrance. "Is this the J. Crew catalog from 2003? Because wow." Nearby guests pretended not to hear, but everyone heard. Cameras started to notice. Flash bulbs turned toward them. Vincent laughed, loudly. "Sienna, you're awful." Sienna was warming up now, getting bolder. "Can you believe this is what $800 million looks like? If I had her money, I'd be in Balmain head to toe." The flashes exploded. Guests stared. Charlotte stood frozen. She was the host. This was her event, her museum, her charity, and she was being publicly mocked by her husband's mistress. Sienna wasn't done. "Babe," she said to Vincent, "does she know about, like, stylists? Because I know a great one. Total transformation. We're talking extreme makeover, billionaire wife edition." A society matron nearby gasped quietly. "This is inappropriate." Sienna heard her, turned. "Oh, I'm sorry. Am I being too honest? I'm just trying to help. Someone has to tell her." Charlotte found her voice. Controlled. Careful. "Excuse me, I need to check on the catering." She walked away with dignity. Head high, cameras followed her. She heard Sienna behind her, laughing, filming. Charlotte made it to a service hallway before checking her phone. Sienna's Instagram post was already live. A video of Charlotte walking away, with a filter, bunny ears on Charlotte's head. The caption read, When your husband's wife shops at Ann Taylor and had a date night upgrade needed yikes but make it fashion. Within minutes, the post had 50,000 likes. The comments were brutal. OMG, who is that? Is she the housekeeper? Sienna is savage. The wife is so basic. Charlotte's phone rang. Her sister, Elena. Charlotte, what the hell is happening? I just saw... I know, Charlotte interrupted. I saw it too. File for divorce. Tonight, this is abuse. Public humiliation. Charlotte's hand moved to her stomach. The small bump hidden under Empire waist fabric. I can't. Why the hell not? I'm pregnant, Elena. 16 weeks. The silence on the other end was complete. Total. Does he know? No, and he's not going to. Not yet. Charlotte, this is insane. He's destroying you publicly while you're carrying his child. Exactly. Charlotte's voice was cold now, calculating. And when he finds out, when everyone finds out, they're going to know he did all of this to a pregnant woman, his pregnant wife. What are you planning? I'm going to let him destroy himself completely. I'm going to let them get so comfortable, so arrogant, so cruel that when I finally speak, no one will question what I do to them. This is dangerous. He made humiliating me a public sport. I'm going to make destroying him a matter of public record. The Hamptons' house party happened in June. Charlotte was 16 weeks pregnant now. The bump was more visible. She got an expert at concealing it with strategic clothing. Loose linen dresses, empire waists, flowing fabrics. The Morrison family beach house in the Hamptons was a sprawling estate. White columns, old money elegance. It had been in Charlotte's family for 4 generations. Vincent treated it like his personal playground. Charlotte arrived late. She'd been at an OB/GYN appointment. Everything was healthy. The baby was thriving despite Charlotte's elevated stress levels. The doctor had warned her to be careful. High blood pressure, risk of preterm labor. Charlotte had nodded, said she understood, then went right back to gathering evidence. She pulled up to the beach house to find 50 people already there. A pool party in full swing, influencers, tech bros, society gossips, music blasting, Instagram perfect setup. Vincent and Sienna held court by the pool. Sienna spotted Charlotte immediately. Oh my God, the wife is here! Everyone turned. 50 phones came up simultaneously. Charlotte stood at the edge of the patio in a linen shirt dress. Flat sandals, sun hat. She looked exactly like what she was, an understated wealthy woman at her own beach house. Sienna ran over, performative excitement. Guys, she's here. Okay, we have to play. Play what? A young influencer asked. Sienna's smile was pure malice. The game Richie and I invented. It's called Dress the Housewife. The crowd looked confused. Vincent was laughing, proving, encouraging. Sienna explained to everyone. Okay, so basically we look at Mrs. Thorne's outfit and we give her honest feedback about how to improve it, like constructive criticism. It's actually really helpful. Charlotte felt her stomach drop. Her hand instinctively moved to protect her belly, hidden under the loose dress. Wait, is this for real? A tech bro asked. Yes, okay. Everybody get your phones out. We're going live. 30 phones pointed at Charlotte. She was trapped at the edge of the patio. Cameras filming, people watching. This was her house, her property, her family's legacy, and she was being turned into content. Sienna circled Charlotte, filming on her phone. All right, besties, first round of Dress the Housewife. Look at this outfit. Really look at it. Now, on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you wear this? The crowd started yelling. A PTA meeting. The DMV. A library. Literally nowhere. Everyone laughed. Charlotte stood still, silent, taking it. Sienna was loving every second. Richie, babe, you're a billionaire. Why does your wife dress like a substitute teacher? Vincent shrugged, laughing. I've tried, babe. She likes being comfortable. Comfortable is boring, girl. Sienna turned to Charlotte. You have access. You could be in Gucci, Prada, anything. Why do you choose this? Charlotte's voice was steady. I prefer classic styles. Classic is code for giving up. Okay, next question. Rate her outfit 1 to 10. Everyone yell it out. The crowd erupted. 4, 2, is 0 an option? Everyone laughing. Someone yelled, she's not even fighting back. Sienna spoke to her camera, to her millions of followers watching live. This is so sad. She's just accepting it. Like, girl, have some self-respect. Charlotte spoke quietly. Excuse me, I need to check on the kitchen. She walked away. Sienna filmed her walking, added bunny ear filters, posted to Instagram with the caption, when your man's ex won't go away, hash it awkward. Stay in your lane, had dress the housewife. The post went viral. Within 2 hours, 4.2 million views. The comments were devastating. Who is this? Is she the housekeeper? That dress is a hate crime. Vincent Thorne's wife is a 4, his girlfriend is a 10. Why doesn't she just leave him? She's probably broke and trapped, lol. Charlotte sat alone in the kitchen, watching the view count climb. 4.2 million. 4.3 million. 4.5 million. Her hand rested on her 16-week belly, hidden under the dress, her daughter, growing inside her while the world laughed. The humiliation wasn't the worst part. The worst part was that everyone was watching, and nobody stopped it. Nobody said this is wrong. Nobody defended her. Society watched. Society filmed. Society participated. Charlotte pulled out her phone, made a voice memo. Her voice was calm, controlled. June 15th, Hampton House Party. New game called Dress the Housewife. 47 witnesses present. 4.2 million views within 2 hours. This is now a pattern of public harassment. Documented. She saved the video Sienna posted, added it to her evidence folder. The folder was getting quite large now. Her sister Elena called. Charlotte, everyone has seen it. It's on page 6. It's on Twitter. People are making memes of you. I know. File for divorce tonight. I'm pregnant, Elena. 16 weeks. The silence stretched. Does he know? No, and he won't. Not until the exact right moment. Charlotte, this is insane. He's destroying you publicly while you're pregnant. Exactly. And when he finds out, when everyone finds out, they're going to know he did all of this to a pregnant woman, his pregnant wife, for 18 months while she planned his destruction. What are you planning? I'm going to let them play their cruel game until they're so arrogant, so comfortable, so certain I'm defeated that when I finally speak, the room will go completely silent and everyone will know who the real monster was. Charlotte looked at her reflection in the darkened kitchen window. The beige dress, the exhaustion, the invisibility. He wanted me invisible, she whispered. He's going to learn that the most dangerous person in the room is often the one nobody's watching. August arrived. Charlotte was 20 weeks pregnant now, halfway through. The baby kicked for the first time during a Morrison Foundation board meeting while Vincent took credit for Charlotte's hospital expansion project. She'd spent 200 hours designing the expansion, researching, planning, creating detailed financial models. A $200 million initiative to add 3 new pediatric wings across 5 states. Charlotte stood at the head of the conference table presenting her work. The Morrison Children's Hospital network expansion will serve an additional 12,000 patients annually, with projected completion in... Vincent interrupted. What Charlotte is trying to say is that we've designed a scalable model. Actually, Vincent, I was about to... He talked over her completely. Let me clarify her point. The financial structuring requires a sophisticated understanding of leveraged capital deployment across multiple regulatory environments. He took over the presentation. Completely. Board members looked uncomfortable but said nothing. Charlotte sat down, silenced in her own meeting, her hand under the table clenched into a white-knuckle fist. Her baby kicked. The first kick. Like she was saying, I'm here, Mom, keep fighting. Charlotte's hand moved to her stomach, hidden under the Empire waist dress. The baby kicked again. After the presentation, a board member congratulated Vincent. Excellent work, Vincent. Thanks. Charlotte helped with some of the research. Charlotte had created every single aspect of this project. During the rest of the meeting, Vincent texted under the table. Charlotte caught glimpses of his screen, Sienna sending lingerie photos, missing you baby, with fire emojis. Vincent smirking while Charlotte discussed oncology funding for children with cancer. In the hallway after, Vincent approached her. You stumbled on the Q3 projections. Embarrassing. I created those projections, and I presented them properly. You're welcome. He started to walk away. Stopped. Also, the foundation dinner next week? I'm bringing Sienna. She's good for our image. Our foundation dinner? Yeah, she brings energy. You bring, well, you're very good at blending into wallpaper, Charlie. He walked away. Charlotte stood alone in the empty hallway. She pulled out her phone. Voice memo. August 12th. Vincent took credit for hospital expansion project. Third time this quarter. Confirmed bringing mistress to foundation events as official date. Pattern of professional humiliation now documented. She had a file on her computer. Encrypted. Backed up in 3 locations. Every text message. Every email. Every Instagram post. Every witness. Every dollar he'd stolen. Because that's what Charlotte had discovered. Vincent wasn't just having an affair. He was embezzling from the Morrison Foundation. $90 million. Stolen from children's hospitals. Spent on his mistress and his lifestyle. Charlotte had a forensic accountant on retainer, a former FBI agent who specialized in white-collar crime. They'd been building the case for 4 months. 47 counts of wire fraud. Every transaction traced, every shell company identified, every lie documented. Vincent thought Charlotte was weak, stupid, and too passive to fight back. He had no idea she'd been a federal prosecutor before they married. She'd given up her partnership at a white shoe law firm to support his career, to run the family foundation. He'd forgotten what she was capable of, or maybe he'd never known. September brought Fashion Week. Charlotte was 24 weeks pregnant. The bump was more visible now. She was running out of time to conceal it, but she needed 6 more weeks. Just 6 more weeks until the Morrison Foundation Gala, the perfect venue for Vincent's perfect downfall. Charlotte arrived at a major runway show. The Morrison Foundation was listed as a sponsor. They had front row seats, reserved, paid for, 4 seats for foundation representatives. She found Vincent and Sienna already sitting in 2 of those seats. Sienna wore haute couture. Vincent wore a designer suit. Press photographers surrounded them, snapping photos. They looked like the perfect couple, young and old money combined. Charlotte approached professionally. Vincent, these are the foundation's seats. He barely looked up. Sienna's my +1. There's a seat in row 2. The foundation purchased these seats for foundation representatives. Sienna's voice rang out loud enough for press. Babe, is your wife always this territorial? It's just a chair. Photographers captured everything. Other front row attendees watched. Fashion editors, society figures, everyone seeing Charlotte displaced by her husband's mistress. Charlie, don't make a scene. Just sit behind us. Charlotte forced a smile for the cameras. Of course, enjoy the show. She moved to the second row, humiliated in front of the fashion world press. The photos would be everywhere tomorrow. Vincent and Sienna front row. Charlotte relegated to the back. During the show, Vincent and Sienna kissed passionately for the cameras. Then Sienna turned to Charlotte behind them. Girl, you should take notes. This is how you keep a man interested. An influencer next to them was live streaming. The chat filled with comments. Drag her sis. The wife is so pathetic. Why doesn't she fight back? Charlotte sat perfectly still, hands folded in her lap, face neutral. But inside, the last thread of whatever feeling she'd had for Vincent snapped clean. The next day, the New York Post ran with it. Billionaire's wife displaced, Charlotte Thorne sits behind husband's mistress at Fashion Week. Photo spread, Vincent and Sienna front row. Charlotte alone in second row. Comments poured in online. She has no self-respect. Just leave him. This is sad to watch. Charlotte saved every article, every photo, every comment, added them to the file. That same week, Charlotte came home from her 24-week checkup to find Sienna's things in the master bedroom. Makeup covering Charlotte's vanity, designer clothes in Charlotte's closet, toiletries in Charlotte's bathroom, Sienna's Instagram ring light set up by the window, the bedroom Charlotte had slept in for 10 years. the bedroom that belonged to the Morrison Family Trust. Her bedroom. Charlotte found Vincent in his home office. Why are Sienna's things in the master bedroom? He didn't look up from his laptop. She's staying the week. Guest room's being renovated. This is my bedroom, my home. Now he looked up, annoyed. Actually, it's Morrison family property. You're a Morrison, I'm a Thorne. Technically, I'm a guest too. So is Sienna. You don't own it. The legal truth, he was right. The penthouse was part of the Morrison Family Trust. Charlotte was trustee, but it wasn't hers in the marriage. I want her things out. Then you'll have to take it up with the trust. But good luck explaining to your grandmother why you're being unwelcoming to my business associate. Business associate? She's consulting on the foundation's social media strategy. It's all above board. He was creating a paper trail, justifying her presence, making it look legitimate. I see. Christ, Charlotte, don't be so dramatic. It's a week. Just sleep in the guest suite if you're that bothered. Charlotte left, moved her things to the guest bedroom, sat on the bed, hand on her 24-week belly. The baby kicked. Strong kicks now, regular. Her daughter, growing, healthy, unaware that her father was a monster. Charlotte looked down at her stomach, whispered, I promise you, baby girl, he won't get away with this. That night, the baby kicked for the first time with real force, not just flutters anymore, actual kicks, like she was fighting alongside her mother. Charlotte lay in the guest bedroom, her bedroom now, in her own home, displaced by her husband's mistress, 24 weeks pregnant, gathering evidence, building a case, planning the perfect revenge. That night, my daughter kicked for the first time with real force, Charlotte would later tell a reporter. And I realized I wasn't just fighting for me anymore. I was fighting for her, for the world she'd be born into, where men like her father don't get to win. October arrived. Charlotte was 26 weeks pregnant now. The baby was the size of a head of lettuce, healthy, active, growing perfectly despite everything. But Charlotte's blood pressure wasn't healthy. It was dangerously elevated. She sat in Dr. Mitchell's office. The blood pressure cuff squeezed her arm. The numbers came up on the monitor. 145/95. Dr. Mitchell's face was serious. Charlotte, this is dangerously elevated for pregnancy. I've been stressed. This level of stress can trigger preterm labor, preeclampsia, or worse. We're talking stroke risk. What's going on? Charlotte broke. For the first time in months, real emotion showed on her face. My husband is having a public affair. He humiliates me at events. They invented a game called Dress the Housewife, where they mock my clothes for social media. Millions of people have watched it. I come home to find his mistress living in my bedroom, and I'm planning to destroy him, but I can't do it yet because I need more evidence. And Dr. Mitchell interrupted. Charlotte, stop. You need to prioritize this baby's health. I am. Charlotte's voice was fierce. Everything I'm doing is for this baby, so she never has to depend on a man who treats her like garbage. So she never thinks it's normal to be humiliated. So she knows her mother was strong enough to fight back. She won't have a mother if you have a stroke. Silence filled the examination room. Doctor, Mitchell's voice softened. You found out the gender? Charlotte looked at the ultrasound screen. Last week, a girl. I haven't told anyone. Does Vincent know you're pregnant at all? No, and he won't. Not until the exact right moment. Which is? When it will hurt him the most. Dr. Mitchell studied her patient. This quiet woman in beige cashmere who'd been coming here for 5 years. Always polite, always controlled, never a problem, and now sitting here planning the destruction of her billionaire husband while 26 weeks pregnant with his child. Charlotte, I need you to understand something. Your blood pressure at this level is dangerous. For you and the baby. If you don't reduce your stress, 6 more weeks, Charlotte interrupted. I need 6 more weeks, then it's over. The gala is October 15th. That's when everything ends. What happens at the gala? Charlotte's smile was small, cold. Justice. That same week, Charlotte visited her grandmother at the Morrison estate in Connecticut. The house was 200 years old. Stone and ivy and old money elegance. Family portraits going back 6 generations. This was where Charlotte had grown up, where she'd learned what it meant to be a Morrison. Maggie took one look at Charlotte getting out of the car and knew immediately. "You're pregnant." Charlotte froze. "How did you—" "Darling, I've had 3 children and 6 grandchildren. I know the walk, the way you hold yourself. Why haven't you told him?" Charlotte broke down. Full, ugly cry, mascara running, gasping sobs, the first time she'd really cried in months. "They have a game, Grandma. They call it Dress the Housewife. At my events. My house. People film me and laugh, and he just watches. He enjoys watching her destroy me." Maggie let her cry. Then, "How long have you known? About the affair? 10 months? About the pregnancy? 6 months? And you've been gathering evidence." Charlotte wiped her tears. "For 6 months, he's embezzled $90 million from the foundation. Spent it on her. Jewelry, cars, apartments. All from children's hospital funds." Maggie stood, walked to an antique secretary desk, removed a leather-bound folder, placed it in front of Charlotte. "Your great-grandmother left this for the woman who would need it. I've been waiting 30 years to give it to someone worthy. Inside, complete Morrison family trust legal structure. Every loophole, every clause, every power center. Handwritten note from great-grandmother dated 1963. Do you know what the dissolution clause says?" Charlotte read, "Yeah, ma'am. If foundation assets are misused for personal gain, sole trustee may immediately revoke all third-party authorization and access." Which means Vincent's company, Thorn Ventures, is collateralized against Morrison assets. Everything he's built, although he built with my family's money. And if you revoke authorization, his empire evaporates in 48 hours. He becomes nothing. But you're worried about scandal. The Morrison name—" Maggie cut her off sharply. Fuck the scandal." Charlotte's eyes widened. Maggie never cursed. Maggie continued, "Let me tell you what your great-grandmother did. 1963. My grandfather tried to steal Morrison Steel during a hostile takeover. Filed papers to have great-grandmother declared incompetent. Emotional female, they said. I remember the story. Do you know what she did? She waited. She gathered evidence. And at their 25th wedding anniversary party, in front of 200 witnesses, while wearing Chanel and the Morrison sapphires, she had him arrested by federal marshals. Charlotte knew this. She'd heard it her whole life. The guests thought it was a performance at first, until the handcuffs came out. She testified against him. He served 12 years. She ran Morrison Steel for 40 years and tripled its value. Maggie poured tea. She had evidence. She had power. She had timing. And she had the last word. You have all of those things, Charlotte. The only question is, are you brave enough to use them? Charlotte's hand moved to her belly. 26 weeks. Her daughter. I'm doing this for her. No, you're doing this for you. The baby is the reason you'll win. But you need to want justice for yourself first. Charlotte looked at her grandmother. This woman who'd survived her own husband's betrayal, who'd taken over a steel company in the 1960s, who'd raised 3 children alone, who'd built an empire. Teach me, Charlotte said. Teach me how to destroy him. Maggie smiled. Darling, I think you already know. You just needed permission. Elena's Tribeca loft looked nothing like the Morrison penthouse. It was modern, industrial, glass and steel, a tech CEO's space. Tonight it served as a war room. Documents spread across the dining table. Charlotte, Elena, David Cooper, the family lawyer, and Rebecca Cortez, Vincent's own PR manager who'd secretly turned against him. Rebecca looked guilty, ashamed. I didn't know what he was doing. I thought the transfers were legitimate foundation expenses. When I realized he was stealing from children's hospitals to buy his mistress a car, I couldn't. I'm so sorry, Charlotte. You brought me the evidence. That's what matters. David Cooper cleared his throat. The lawyer was 50, cautious, conservative. He'd served the Morrison family for 25 years. We have him on 47 counts of wire fraud. $90 million embezzled from Morrison Foundation accounts. Elena pulled up a timeline on her laptop. The Morrison Foundation Gala is in 6 weeks, October 15th. Charlotte nodded. It's our biggest event. 400 guests, press, board members, donors, society. Well, David continued. Vincent's planning a major announcement. He's telling press he's pledging $100 million to expand children's hospitals. With my money, Charlotte said quietly. Rebecca added, he called me this morning, said he's bringing Sienna as his official date. No more hiding. He actually said, it's time to stop living a lie. Elena exploded. While you're 6 months pregnant with his child. 7 months by the gala, Charlotte corrected. The timing is perfect. David looked uncomfortable. Charlotte, I need to be clear about the risks. If you do this publicly, there's no taking it back. Vincent will face federal prison. His reputation will be destroyed. The gala will be his coronation, Charlotte interrupted. He'll be at his most arrogant. Sienna will be performing for the cameras. The whole world will watch. Elena leaned forward. What exactly are you planning? Charlotte's voice was cold. Certain. I'm going to let them play their cruel game one last time, in front of everyone. I'm going to stand there and take it, like I have for 18 months. And then I'm going to speak. And that room is going to go so silent, you'll hear their hearts stop. She placed documents on the table. FBI contact information. Press release, pre-written, board emergency meeting notice, trust dissolution papers, arrest warrants pending execution. Rebecca stared. You've thought of everything. I've had 6 months. I have been very thorough. David picked up the FBI paperwork. You're working with federal investigators? Special Agent Marcus Rodriguez, White Collar Crime Division. I've been his confidential informant for 3 months. They're building their own case parallel to mine. Elena looked at her sister with new respect. You're not just divorcing him. You're sending him to prison. He stole $90 million from sick children while I was pregnant, while he humiliated me publicly. While society watched and laughed, yes, I'm sending him to prison. Charlotte stood, walked to the window. Manhattan glittered below. Somewhere out there, Vincent was probably with Sienna, laughing, planning the gala, his big moment, his coronation as New York's philanthropist king. He had no idea the crown was made of lies, and Charlotte was about to set it on fire. I've been silent for 18 months, Charlotte said to her reflection in the window. At the gala, I speak, and everything ends. The next 6 weeks were a countdown, a montage of cruelty escalating while Charlotte prepared the perfect trap. Week 1, hospital charity event. Vincent and Sienna arrived late, laughed loudly during Charlotte's speech. Sienna posted on Instagram, when the speech is so boring, sure save me. Charlotte continued speaking without reaction. Later in her office, reviewing forensic accounting reports, David's voice. We have him on 47 counts now. It's airtight. Week 2, society luncheon. Charlotte 28 weeks pregnant now. Sienna arrived in neon pink Versace, performed a helpful fashion intervention for the crowd. Girl, have you heard of Spanx? Total game changer for the situations. Gestured at Charlotte's midsection. The room tittered nervously. One woman whispered, is she implying Charlotte's pregnant? Another, surely not. Charlotte's always been frumpy. Charlotte smiled politely, left early, went straight to FBI headquarters. Met with Special Agent Rodriguez. Mrs. Thorne, you understand, if you proceed with this, you'll have to testify. I'm prepared to do whatever it takes. Your husband will face 20+ years federal prison. I understand. Do I seem uncertain to you, Agent Rodriguez? The agent studied her, this quiet woman in beige cashmere planning the destruction of a billionaire. No, ma'am. You seem like the most certain person I've ever met. Week 3, Charlotte 30 weeks pregnant, still concealing it. Vincent hadn't noticed. Too busy on his phone, too busy with Sienna. One night, Charlotte ate dinner alone. She could hear Vincent in the next room video chatting with Sienna. God, I can't wait till I file for divorce. We can finally be completely public. When, baby? I'm tired of hiding. Soon, after the gala, big public moment, then I'm done with her. Charlotte's hand tightened on her fork. She was 30 weeks pregnant with his daughter. He was planning to divorce her. After the gala, After his big moment, after he'd used her family's name and money one last time. Perfect. Let him plan. Let him think he controlled the narrative. He had no idea Charlotte had already written the ending. Week 4 was the most important. The dress. Charlotte sat in the exclusive atelier of Valentina Russo, the legendary designer. Invitation only, she dressed Charlotte's grandmother for 40 years. Charlotte Morrison, Valentina said in her Italian accent, I dressed your grandmother for 40 years. She told me one day you would come. She sent me. Valentina studied Charlotte's 32-week pregnant form. You want it to hide, then reveal, yes? I want them to not notice until I choose. Then I want everyone to see. Valentina designed as they talked, sketching, draping fabric on the form. The bodice will be structured, armor. The waist will be empire with removable draping. When you remove the pin, she demonstrated, the truth shows. It needs to be perfect. It will be more than perfect. It will be a weapon. The design, midnight blue silk, architectural lines, structured bodice like a breastplate, strategic draping that hinted but concealed. When released, revealed unmistakable pregnancy. This will cause a sensation, Valentina said. That's exactly the point. Your grandmother did something similar. 1963. She had me make her a gown for an anniversary party. She knew what was coming. I know the story. Then you know the dress is not decoration. The dress is a statement. When you walk into that room, you are declaring war. I've been at war for 18 months. This is me declaring victory. Week 5, charity tennis tournament. Charlotte 32 weeks pregnant, wearing loose athletic wear on the sidelines. Sienna playing exhibition match in designer tennis whites. Sienna accidentally hit a ball directly at Charlotte. Charlotte flinched, protected her stomach instinctively. OMG, I'm so sorry. You should have moved faster. Those reflexes, girl. Vincent laughing. Babe, you almost killed her. Charlotte silently picked up the ball, handed it back. Her face showed nothing. But inside, 5 more days. Just 5 more days. Week 6, the night before the gala, private dinner party at the penthouse. Sienna hosting. 20 guests. Charlotte entered in a simple wrap dress concealing her 33-week bump. Sienna to the crowd. Okay, besties, final round before the big gala. What should the wife wear tomorrow night? Guests yelling, potato sack. Paper bag, nothing. Just stay home, Vincent laughing. Pouring champagne. Sienna turning to Charlotte. Mrs. Thorne, what are you wearing tomorrow? Charlotte's smile was enigmatic, small, knowing, dangerous. I'll surprise you. Sienna laughed. Oh, honey, I don't think you're capable of surprises. You've worn beige for 10 years straight. Charlotte's voice was quiet. Final. Well, there's a first time for everything. She walked to the guest bedroom, where she'd been sleeping for months, in her own home, displaced, humiliated, pregnant, planning. They thought they knew her. Boring Charlotte, predictable Charlotte, invisible Charlotte. Tomorrow night they would learn she was never any of those things. She was just patient, and her patience was about to pay off. October 15th, the day everything ended. The day Charlotte Morrison Thorne stopped being silent. Morning arrived cold and clear. Perfect weather for destroying a billionaire. In the master bedroom, Vincent prepared. Armani tuxedo, expensive cologne. He was on the phone with his publicist. Yes, Sienna will be on my arm for red carpet. Full press access, my wife. She'll be there somewhere. She's always around. He preened in the mirror. Confident, arrogant. Today was his day, his coronation, the moment he cemented himself as New York's philanthropist king. In the guest suite, Charlotte prepared differently. She sat in her robe, 33 weeks pregnant, a baby the size of a pineapple. Any day now, the doctor said, but not today. Today, Charlotte needed to not be in labor. Just one more day. A makeup artist worked on Charlotte's face. Someone Elena had hired, discreet, professional, creating a look Charlotte hadn't worn in years. Dramatic, powerful, regal. Mrs. Thorne, you seem very calm, the makeup artist said. Do I? Most women are nervous before big events. Charlotte's hand rested on her belly. Her daughter kicked. Strong kicks. I'm not nervous. I'm ready. Vincent knocked on the guest suite door. Didn't wait for an answer. Charlie, try to look decent tonight. Sienna's wearing Versace. I don't need you embarrassing me. Charlotte spoke through the closed door. I'll do my best. Are you even wearing makeup? Last gala, you looked exhausted. I've taken care of everything. Good. See you there. He left. Charlotte opened the door. The makeup artist saw her face fully for the first time. Mrs. Thorne, are you all right? Charlotte's smile was small, cold. Call Valentina. Tell her it's time. I'm ready for the dress. Valentina arrived personally with her team. The garment bag revealed the midnight blue Valentino masterpiece. Charlotte stepped into it. The zipper closed. The strategic draping positioned perfectly. Valentina showed Charlotte the pin on her left hip. Remember, the pin is here. When you release it, the truth shows. Are you sure you want to do this? Charlotte looked at herself in the mirror. The transformation was complete. Not frumpy anymore, not invisible, powerful, regal, dangerous. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. The Morrison sapphires? Charlotte opened the jewelry box. Family heirloom necklace. Sapphires and diamonds. Worth $50 million, but the value was in history. Her great-grandmother had worn these when she had her husband arrested. Valentina helped her put them on. Your great-grandmother wore these when she had her husband arrested. I know. That's why I'm wearing them tonight. 7 o'clock. Plaza Hotel, Grand Ballroom. Vincent and Sienna arrived in a cherry-red Ferrari. The press went insane. Sienna wore a barely there gold lame gown. Slit to hip, back completely exposed. 10 million in diamonds borrowed from what she thought was Vincent's collection. Later, Charlotte would prove they were Morrison family pieces Vincent had stolen. Vincent stepped onto the red carpet with Sienna on his arm. Chest puffed. Arrogant. I'm done hiding. This is the woman I love. Sienna for the cameras. And tonight's about celebrating Vincent's incredible generosity. He's donating $100 million. A reporter asked, Vincent, bringing Sienna tonight, that's a bold statement. Where's Mrs. Thorne? Charlotte's very supportive. She understands we've grown apart. She's been very gracious about everything. Sienna, she's such a sweet lady, very understanding. They entered to applause from younger tech crowd. Scandalized gasps from old guard society. Society matrons whispering. Press following them inside. This was Vincent's moment. His coronation. 8 o'clock. 1 hour after Vincent and Sienna. A black SUV arrived at the plaza. Not a limousine, not flashy, discreet. The door opened. Charlotte Morrison Thorne stepped out. The press photographers initially didn't care. Then recognition rippled through the crowd. Wait, is that Charlotte Thorne? The cameras exploded. Charlotte walked the red carpet alone. Unhurried, every step deliberate. The midnight blue Valentino caught every flash. The Morrison sapphires blazed under the lights. Her hair in an elegant chignon. Dramatic makeup. She looked like royalty. Society matrons at the entrance gasped. Good God, she's magnificent. Are those the Morrison sapphires? They haven't been worn since 1963. A reporter rushed over. Charlotte, you look absolutely stunning. What are you wearing? Charlotte's voice was calm, controlled. Valentino and Morrison family history. The sapphires are incredible. My great-grandmother's. She wore them to important occasions. This seemed appropriate. Any comment on Vincent bringing Sienna Blake tonight? Charlotte's smile was enigmatic. I think everyone will have plenty to talk about before the night is over. What does that mean? You'll see. She walked into the ballroom. Every eye followed her. Inside, Vincent and Sienna watched on monitors showing the red carpet feed. Sienna's voice was panicked. Why the fuck does she look like that? Vincent tried to sound confident. It's just a dress, babe. That's not just a dress. She looks like she owns this place. She's trying to upstage us. Ignore it. This is my night. She's up to something. I can feel it. Relax. What's she going to do? She's Charlotte. She won't even defend herself when we insult her. She's harmless. A society matron approached them. Her voice was ice. Mr. Thorne, your wife looks extraordinary tonight. Vincent forced a smile. Yes, she made an effort. The matron's eyes were cold. Those sapphires haven't been worn since her great-grandmother had her husband arrested for embezzlement. Did you know that? Vincent's face drained of color. Sienna, that's like a weird story to bring up. Is it? I thought it was rather relevant. She walked away. Vincent and Sienna exchanged nervous glances. They felt it. That first flutter of fear. The realization that maybe, just maybe, they'd miscalculated. But it was already too late. The pieces were in motion. The FBI was outside. The press had the story ready. The board had the evidence. All that was left was the moment. The moment when Charlotte Morrison Thorne finally spoke. And the room went completely, utterly, devastatingly silent. The formal dinner service proceeded perfectly. 400 guests seated, Manhattan's elite in formal wear. Charlotte sat with board members, separate from Vincent and Sienna. Her grandmother Maggie beside her. Board members noticing Charlotte's transformation. Catherine, an older board member, whispered, "Charlotte, you look absolutely regal tonight." "Thank you, Catherine." "Those sapphires, your great-grandmother wore them when—" "I know, I thought it was appropriate." Maggie squeezed Charlotte's hand under the table. "Timing, darling. It's all about timing." At the head table, Vincent prepared for his big moment. His speech, his announcement, his coronation. Sienna filmed everything for Instagram. Vincent was loud, confident, owning the room. After dinner, Vincent took the microphone. "Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us at the Morrison Foundation's 75th anniversary gala." Standing ovation from mostly younger crowd. Charlotte clapped politely, face neutral, hand resting on her belly under the table. Her daughter kicked, like she knew something big was coming. Vincent continued, "My wife Charlotte and I are thrilled to celebrate this milestone. The Morrison Foundation has been a cornerstone of pediatric healthcare for 3/4 of a century." He took credit throughout, never acknowledged Charlotte's actual work, used "we" and our vision constantly. And tonight, I'm proud to announce the largest single donation in foundation history, $100 million to expand children's hospitals across 5 states. Massive applause. Sienna jumped up, kissed him, cameras flashing, press writing frantically. Charlotte said quietly to Catherine beside her, "That's interesting, considering he's spending Morrison family money." "What do you mean?" "You'll see, soon." After Vincent's speech, guests mingled. Champagne flowed. Sienna grew bolder. Tipsy, she stood suddenly. Loud. "OMG, you guys!" The room quieted. People turned. "We should play a game." Vincent half-heartedly, "Babe, maybe not here." No, this'll be fun. It's a game Richie and I play. It's called Dress the Housewife." Nervous laughter from some, shocked silence from older society. "Wait, what?" a young tech bro asked. Sienna pulled out her phone, went Instagram live. "Okay, I'm taking you guys live. We're at the Morrison Foundation Gala, and we're about to play everyone's favorite game." The screen showed 32,847 viewers watching, comments flooding in. Sienna scanned the room. "Now where is— There she is!" She spotted Charlotte across the ballroom. "The wife is here," crowd murmured. Sienna approached Charlotte, filming. "Mrs. Thorne, come on, girl, don't be shy. Everyone wants to see what you're wearing." Charlotte stood slowly, walked to center of room, every eye on her. Cameras, press, and personal pointed at her. In full ballroom lighting, the dress was even more stunning. Architectural, powerful, commanding, but still concealing. Sienna circled her, filming. Okay, I'll admit this is an improvement. You finally let someone dress you. But girl," she got closer, examining. "What is happening here?" Gestured vaguely at Charlotte's midsection. "Is this just the dress, or—" Uncomfortable laughter rippled through the crowd. "Rate this look, besties, 1 to 10, and be honest." Instagram comments flooded in, mixed reactions. "She actually looks good." "Why is the mistress so pressed?" "This is uncomfortable to watch." Vincent joined Sienna on the floor, making it a performance, playing to the crowd. Ladies and gentlemen, my wife Charlotte has been very patient with us tonight. Some guests laughed. Others looked horrified. I'll admit, Charlotte's never been one for excitement. She's practical, sensible, predictable. Sienna. Boring is the word you're looking for, babe. I wouldn't say boring, I'd say consistent. When I met her 10 years ago, she looked exactly like this. Same style, same hair, same energy. And you know what? She hasn't changed one bit. Laughter from some, gasps from old guard. Sienna emboldened now. Okay, final round. Everyone look at Charlotte Thorne in her fancy dress. She panned her camera around, 400 people watching, many filming on their own phones. Is she a snack or a scrap? Vote now, Vincent laughing. Arm around Sienna. Then Sienna crossed the final line. Honestly, if I was married to Vincent Thorne, if I had access to his money, I'd at least try to keep him interested. But I guess some women just give up, accept that they're not enough, accept that someone younger, hotter, better is going to come along, and a society matron stood. That is quite enough. Sienna turned to her. Oh, are you upset? Should I be nicer? It's just honesty. Back to Charlotte. Girl, seriously, no judgment. But how do you live with yourself? Knowing you're not enough, knowing everyone here is laughing at you. The room split, some laughing, some cringing, press cameras rolling. Old guard society furious but saying nothing. Charlotte throughout all of this stood still, silent, taking it like she had for 18 months, hand resting at her side. Sienna sensed she was losing the room. Okay, I'm done. That's it. Game over. But she made one final mistake. Approached Charlotte, reached out to straighten Charlotte's dress, touched Charlotte's shoulder. Charlotte's voice was quiet but clear. Don't touch me. Sienna laughed. Oh, now she speaks. After all that, now she has something to say. Charlotte took one step forward. The room began to go quiet. May I have the microphone, please? Vincent nervous. Charlie, what are you? The microphone, Vincent. Something in her voice, something final, something that had been building for 18 months. Vincent handed it over. Charlotte took the microphone. Her voice was clear, controlled, amplified throughout the ballroom. Thank you, Sienna. That was very entertaining. Not angry, not hurt, simply done. You asked if I would let everyone see what I'm wearing. You asked if I'm enough. You asked how I live with myself. Charlotte walked to the absolute center of the ballroom floor. Let me answer your questions. She reached to her left hip, where Valentina had shown her the pin, the strategic draping held in place. She found it, released it. The fabric fell away, revealing an unmistakable 33-week pregnant belly. The silence, complete, total, absolute. 400 people stopped breathing. Champagne glasses froze midair. Forks paused. Phones still recording, but hands trembling. Press photographers erupted in flashes, but even they seemed shocked into slower motion. Charlotte's hand on her belly. To the room. I'm 33 weeks pregnant with Vincent's daughter. I found out the day after the Met Gala. That was 7 months ago. Camera showed Sienna's face white, mouth open, Vincent's blood draining from face, swaying. Board members shocked but pieces clicking together. Society matrons understanding dawning. Press writing frantically. Charlotte continued, voice steady. For 7 months, I've been carrying this baby while watching my husband and his mistress play their game. Dress the housewife. Mock the pregnant woman. Make her humiliation viral content. Phones around room showed Instagram Live. 847,000 viewers now. Comments exploding. Oh my God. She's pregnant? They did this to a pregnant woman. Vincent found his voice, stumbled forward. Charlotte, why didn't you tell me? Charlotte turned to him, ice cold. I tried, twice the first time I came to your office. Sienna was on video call trying on my mother's jewelry. You told me not to interrupt. Remember? Vincent's face, he remembered. The second time I came home to tell you, found her in our bed, wearing my grandmother's pearls. You told me I was being dramatic for objecting. Gasps around the room, Sienna panicking, defensive. Okay, this is ridiculous. She's clearly just trying to manipulate. Charlotte cut her off. Miss Blake? Pause. Or should I say Miss Cole? Sienna froze completely. Charlotte to the room. Sienna Blake doesn't exist. Her middle name is Savannah Marie Cole. She was fired from Goldman Sachs 4 years ago for insider trading. The SEC investigated but couldn't prove intent. So she created a new identity. Murmurs through crowd becoming louder. She targeted my husband, not for love, for access, to Morrison family money. Sienna's voice shaking. Richie, she's lying. I have documentation, all of it, every forged signature, every shell company, every wire transfer. Charlotte signaled to the side door. FBI agents entered the ballroom. Special Agent Marcus Rodriguez stepped forward, badge held high. Vincent Alexander Thorne, Savannah Marie Cole, you're both under arrest. The chaos that followed would be replayed on news channels for weeks, analyzed, dissected, called the most dramatic takedown in New York society history. Agent Rodriguez read the charges. You're being charged with wire fraud, embezzlement of charitable funds, identity theft, money laundering, and conspiracy to commit fraud. Vincent stumbled backward. No, this is Charlotte, please, Sienna screamed. This is bullshit. You can't prove any of this. Charlotte calm to Sienna. Actually, I can. She pulled out her phone, connected it to the ballroom screens. Everyone watched as a compilation video played. Every Dress the Housewife game. Audio of Vincent. She's not enough. Vincent kissing Sienna while Charlotte presented hospital funding. Vincent laughing at Charlotte's humiliation. Sienna. When you finally leave her, can I have the emerald earrings? Vincent. Take whatever you want. All of it. Compiled, time-stamped, undeniable. The room watched in horror. FBI agents handcuffed Vincent. He looked at Charlotte, desperate. The baby! Our baby! You can't do this! I'll fix it! I'll fix everything! You've had 7 months to care about this baby. You spent that time turning my humiliation into entertainment. I didn't know you were pregnant. You didn't look. You didn't care. You didn't ask. For 7 months you lived with me, and you never once actually saw me. FBI handcuffed Sienna. She screamed at Charlotte, You bitch! You set us up! No, you set yourselves up. You simply became so arrogant, so comfortable, so cruel that you forgot I was a person. You forgot I might fight back. Sienna being led away. I didn't know it was illegal. He said it was his money. Agent Rodriguez, that's between you and your lawyer. Vincent as he was led out. To Charlotte. One final time. I loved you once. I did. How did we get here? Charlotte met his eyes. You made a choice, Vincent. Every day for 18 months. You chose cruelty. You chose humiliation. You chose her. I'm just choosing consequences. He was dragged out. The room remained in absolute silence. Then a society matron stood. Charlotte Morrison Thorne, you are the bravest woman in this room. Another stood. Hear, hear. The old guard society gave her a standing ovation. Charlotte stood center floor, hand on pregnant belly, tears finally coming, but standing tall. 30 minutes later, private conference room, Plaza Hotel, Charlotte still in the gown, board members assembled, David Cooper presenting documents. Elena standing beside Charlotte. David, as sole trustee of Morrison Family Trust, Charlotte Morrison Thorne invokes Dissolution Clause 7B. He placed documents on table. All third-party access to Morrison Capital is hereby revoked, effective immediately. Board member, Charlotte, this means Vincent's company, Thorne Ventures, was collateralized 94% against Morrison assets. As of this moment, those assets are recalled. Thorne Ventures no longer exists. That's a $14 billion valuation. That was a fiction, built on stolen money, on my family's money, on money meant for sick children. David showed breakdown on screen. $12 million for Tribeca apartment, $8 million for jewelry, $3 million for cars, $5 million for Hampton House, $15 million for offshore accounts, $47 million propping up failing investments. He stole from children's hospitals, all to buy his mistress diamonds, while I was pregnant with his child. Board, stunned silence. The foundation will undergo complete restructuring. New board, new oversight, complete transparency, and every dollar Vincent stole will be recovered and returned. Charlotte stood. This meeting is adjourned. I need to go check on my daughter. Hand on belly, walked out. The next 72 hours were a media firestorm. ABC World News. Breaking tonight. Manhattan billionaire arrested at charity gala after pregnant wife reveals 18-month investigation into embezzlement. NBC Nightly News. The Dress the Housewife game that ended in federal charges. CNN. Anderson Cooper. Charlotte Thorne, 7 months pregnant, stood in front of 400 witnesses and revealed her husband had embezzled $90 million. The courage that took. New York Times front page. The Silent Wife. How Charlotte Thorne played the long game. Photo Charlotte revealing pregnancy at gala. Wall Street Journal. Thorne Ventures collapses $14 billion empire built on embezzled charity funds. New York Post. Billionaire's cruel game ends in handcuffs. Photo Vincent and Sienna being arrested. Social media exploded. Hashtag dress the housewife trending #1 worldwide. But now mocking Sienna and Vincent. TikTok videos recreating Charlotte's moment. POV, you played a game you didn't know you'd already lost. Sienna's Instagram followers, 40 million to 8 million in 72 hours. Comments all attacking her, you mocked a pregnant woman. How does it feel to be the villain? Vincent's professional collapse immediate. Forbes. Vincent Thorne removed from billionaire list? Never was one. TED Talk removed from platform. Harvard rescinding guest lecture invitation. Public opinion overwhelming. The View. Whoopee, let me tell you something. That woman stood there for 18 months, pregnant, gathering evidence. That's not revenge, that's justice, the Today Show. Savannah Guthrie. The question everyone's asking, why didn't society intervene? 400 people watched this game happen repeatedly. Why did no one stop it? 1 week after the gala, Charlotte's new apartment, smaller, quieter, safer. She'd moved out of the penthouse. 34 weeks pregnant now. Elena visiting with food and support. Elena watching Charlotte struggle to get comfortable. How are you really feeling? Tired, relieved, terrified. The world thinks you're a genius mastermind. The world watched me get humiliated for 18 months and did nothing. The bitterness finally showing. Why didn't you tell me about the pregnancy earlier? I could have helped. Charlotte broke down, first truly vulnerable moment. Because I was ashamed. Shamed? Shamed that I was bringing a baby into this mess. Ashamed that I stayed. Ashamed that even after everything, part of me still hoped he would wake up. That he'd see me one morning and remember who I was. Who we were. Ugly crying now. I wanted him to choose us, Elena. I wanted him to see me pregnant and realize what he was destroying. But he never did. He never even looked at me long enough to notice. Elena held her. You did the right thing. Did I? I used my daughter as a weapon. I let myself be humiliated while pregnant because I knew it would make the evidence more damning. What kind of mother does that? The kind who's making sure her daughter never has to play anyone's cruel game. The kind who's showing her daughter that silence can be strategy, that patience can be power. Charlotte looked at her belly. I just hope she understands someday. Baby kicked. Charlotte smiled small. She's kicking. She does that when I'm upset, like she's reminding me she's here. What are you going to name her? Margaret Elena Morrison, Elena cried. After Grandma and me? After the two strongest women I know. And she's a Morrison, only a Morrison, never a Thorne. 6 months later, Manhattan Federal Courthouse. Charlotte was 39 weeks pregnant the day of Vincent's sentencing. She'd given birth 2 weeks after his arrest. Margaret Elena Morrison, 7 pounds, 6 ounces. Perfect, healthy, beautiful. Today, Charlotte brought her daughter to court. 6 months old. Elena held her in the gallery while Charlotte testified. The prosecutor asked, Mrs. Thorne, can you describe the emotional impact of the defendant's actions? Charlotte's voice was steady, strong. He made humiliating me a public sport. He turned my pain into content. He invited society to laugh at me, and society did. For 18 months, I was a joke. While pregnant, while planning my daughter's future, while trying to hold together a foundation meant to help children. What do you want this court to know? That cruelty isn't entertainment, that pregnant women aren't punchlines, and that silence isn't weakness. Sometimes silence is just strategy. Vincent's lawyer tried. Mrs. Thorne, isn't it true you deliberately concealed your pregnancy to make my client look worse? Charlotte's eyes were ice. I concealed my pregnancy because every time I tried to tell him, he was either with her, insulting me, or actively stealing from my family's foundation. I protected my daughter from a man who would have used her as another prop in his performance. Vincent's sentencing. The judge spoke. Mr. Thorne, you embezzled $90 million from children's hospitals to finance a lifestyle meant to publicly humiliate your pregnant wife. You turned cruelty into content. You invited society to participate in your wife's destruction. 15 years federal prison. No parole eligibility for 10 years. Vincent broke down. Charlotte, please, tell them I'm sorry. I'll change. Our daughter, my daughter, she's mine. You gave up that right when you made me a joke. Vincent dragged out screaming. Sienna's sentencing followed. The judge. Miss Cole, you created a false identity to escape prosecution. You targeted a wealthy family. You weaponized social media to destroy a woman's dignity. And you did it all while she was pregnant. 12 years federal prison. Sienna to Charlotte as she was let out. I hope you're happy. Charlotte quiet. I'm not happy. I'm just done. 2 weeks after sentencing. New York Presbyterian Hospital. Charlotte in delivery room. Alona and Maggie present. No Vincent. Doctor, nurses. Supportive all-female team. One more push, Charlotte. Charlotte crying. Exhausted. Strong. Babies cry. It's a girl. Nurse placed baby on Charlotte's chest. Hi, baby. Hi. I'm your mama. I'm sorry it took me so long to get us safe, but we're safe now. We're okay now. Elena crying, she's beautiful. Maggie also crying, she looks like you did when you were born. Charlotte to baby, your name is Margaret Elena Morrison. You're named after warriors, after survivors, after women who don't give up. Whispered, your father was a bad man. He hurt us, but he can't hurt us anymore. You're going to grow up knowing you're loved, knowing you're strong, knowing you're enough, always enough. Baby gripped Charlotte's finger. Thank you for everything. I couldn't have done this alone. Elena, you were never alone. You just forgot for a while. Exactly 1 year after the silence, the Morrison Foundation Gala returned to the Plaza Hotel Grand Ballroom. Same venue, same event, completely different energy. Charlotte's entrance carrying Margaret, now 11 months old, adorable. Charlotte wore an emerald Dior gown, hair shorter, modern, confident, radiating power and joy. The room stood in ovation, not because of scandal, because she rebuilt. Press respectful. Charlotte, Margaret, can we get a photo? Charlotte posed with her daughter, confident, happy, free. Charlotte's speech, Margaret on her hip. Good evening. Thank you all for coming to the 76th Morrison Foundation Gala. Applause. Last year, this room went silent. Tonight, I hope we can make some noise. Laughter, applause. The Morrison Foundation has been completely restructured. We now have 100% transparent accounting. Every donor can see exactly where their money goes, every dollar tracked, every child counted. Standing ovation. We've expanded to 12 new children's hospitals. We've created the Silent Voices Initiative, helping victims of public humiliation, domestic emotional abuse, and financial control. She shifted Margaret to other hip. This little girl is why I fought, not for revenge, not for justice, for her future. So she grows up in a world where cruelty isn't entertainment, where pregnant women aren't punchlines, where silence can be strategy, but voice is power. Thank you for your support. Thank you for believing in second chances, not for the people who hurt us, but for the survivors who rebuild. Massive applause. After the gala, private room, Charlotte alone with Margaret, baby falling asleep in her arms, quiet, peaceful, safe. Elena entered. You did it? You actually did it. Did what? Turn the worst thing that ever happened to you into something that helps thousands. Charlotte looking at sleeping Margaret. She saved me. Not the revenge, not the justice, her, knowing she was coming, knowing I had to be strong enough for both of us. Vincent wrote you again, from prison. Charlotte didn't react. Do you want to know what it says? No. He says he's sorry, that he sees it now, that he destroyed everything. Charlotte finally looked up. He didn't destroy everything. He destroyed himself. I survived. Margaret thrived. The foundation rebuilt. He lost everything. We gained everything. That's not destruction. That's karma. Will you ever forgive him? Charlotte thought. Forgiveness isn't for him. It's for me to be. And I don't need to forgive him to be free of him. I already am. She looked at her ring finger. Bare. No wedding ring. I don't think about him anymore. I think about her future, about the foundation, about the women we're helping. He's just noise, fading noise. Assistant entered. Mrs. Morrison, there's a letter from the federal prison. File it. I'm sure his parole board will want to see his remorse. Assistant left. Elena. You're not even curious? No, I spent 18 months being curious about him, watching him, studying him, gathering evidence. I don't need to know him anymore. I already know everything that matters. She stood, cheek-toying, holding sleeping Margaret. He's a man who chose cruelty over love, who chose performance over partnership, who chose a game over his family. That's all I need to know. Walk to window, Manhattan skyline lit up. You know what I think about now? Her first steps, her first words, what she'll be when she grows up. The foundation's expansion, the women we're helping rebuild their lives. That's my life now, not him. Never him again. Charlotte and Margaret silhouetted against window. Margaret woke, looked at Charlotte, smiled. Charlotte kissed her forehead. We won, baby girl. Not because we destroyed him, but because we survived him. And that's all that matters.